on in, everyone. Come on in because we are here to talk about a little special video surrounding the announcement that Clifton and Joy are getting a divorce. Y'all wanted me to come here and give my thoughts about it. Um, it's sad. I mean, anytime a couple breaks up, it's sad. How long were they together, y'all? I think it's been 3 years. 3 years since their season came on, and I don't know what went wrong. I mean, any of us, we're not in their lives too much. I do know that, they were on the one season of Love and Marriage DC. We know that they became good friends with the couple on there, Arena and Jamie. And after y'all told me and I saw they was getting divorced, it looks like Joy got the friends. When you break up, who's gonna get the friends, right? Because the friends can't keep hanging out with both of y'all. I mean, some people do. Some people can get divorced and then still hang out in the same crowds, but for the most part, the friends are gonna have to choose. The friends are gonna have to choose. So it looks like, based on Joy's IG, Jamie and Arena chose, and they chose Joy. So I know Clifton is the one that, um, filed the paperwork. So sometimes people think, oh, if you're the one that filed, you're the one that's the most upset. I really don't know. I'm not going to really say that with this couple because um, when we watch Clifton on Love and Marriage, not Love and Marriage, Ready to Love, a lot of people didn't like Joy. They thought she was mean. And a lot of people really got hung up on the whole Dakia thing, like how that went down, how Clifton wasn't completely honest with some of the gaslighting and flirting or whatever you want to call it he was doing with Dakia, leading her on. And then Joy kind of like not saying good things about Dakia or kind of misinterpreting what really went on, right? She's standing up for her man, but her man was in the wrong. And by the way, is it news that Dakia's not married no more either? Y'all let me know. Y'all better sleuth than me. I'm just saying that I don't think Dakia's married anymore. I could be wrong, but that new husband of hers ain't nowhere near on her IG. And I know that's how people break up nowadays. They wipe you from the IG. So, and she ain't wearing no ring. So she got married shortly after Ready to Love, maybe a year after. Everybody was happy for her. It was like a redemption. It was like the kid got redeemed because people liked Dakia. I liked her. She kind of did bother me a little bit. If I go back and think about my reviews of Dakia, I felt like she was a bit naive. And you know me, I love a STEM major, and Dakia is like a systems engineer or something. Then she had like this artistic side where she taught kids how to dance. And I always just felt like, Dakia, where's the logic? Where's the logic? I felt like she got duped by Clifton too much. But I don't know, look like she ain't married no more. But anyway, that ain't the story because that ain't been published. And I don't know that for sure. But we didn't really like Clifton for how he treated Dakia. We didn't really like what he did. But here's what I said back then. Once he and Joy committed, and I was happy for them. I say, hey, you know what? They found their soulmates or whatever you want to call it, their person. Is that what we say now? I found my person. But what really surprised me, which told me a lot about Clifton, was that, remember, Joy was like a singer. She's a singer, a traveling singer. And at the time, Joy was living in Mexico, Puerto Vallarta, because that's where a lot of her gig was. And I remember when they got together, I was thinking, how is this relationship going to work? Because remember, Clifton had already been married a couple of times. He had 3 kids. He had a very young baby at the time. I think that child was only a year old or 2 years old. Very, very young. And then he had a special needs child. And Clifton was running around talking about he was going to move to Mexico with Joy. And I thought, how the heck are you co-parenting a special needs child and a child under 2 years old, but you moving all the way to Mexico to follow Joy around on her singing career. First of all, I was thinking, what the heck does Clifton do? How does Clifton make his money? Okay, I remember he had some beard oil, and I remember that from the Love and Marriage DC, because the whole beard oil thing was kind of how I think Joy and Carmen, remember Carmen? Carmen, the best friend, but yet they thought there was a throuple because they was always traveling together. In the end, the relationship between Joy and Carmen blew up, and then Carmen said, "I'm really only your friend, Joy, is because you married to my best friend." So basically, she was saying, if you weren't married to Clifton, I wouldn't have nothing to do with you, Joy. And Joy was hurt because Joy thought, well, I thought we were friends outright. And Carmen was there to let her know, no, we're not friends outright. The only reason I still, mess with you, rock with you in any kind of capacity is because you are best friends with Clifton. And at this point, I don't even really want to be, I really don't even want to do that no more. So that whole relationship fell apart. But I remember thinking to myself with Clifton, like, if he can leave a marriage and he can leave a 2-year-old and he can leave a child with special needs, then I'm not surprised he's the one that filed for divorce, because Clifton has proven that he knows how to file for divorce. He knows how to leave. So he did it again. What Clifton is showing us now on this third marriage is he knows how to walk away. He knows how to leave. So the fact that he filed for divorce, that doesn't necessarily surprise me. What might have happened, I don't know what happened, but typically no marriage is perfect. All marriages have things that we need to work on in the marriage. And it depends on how good of a problem solving couple you are. If you can't solve your problems, then it becomes irreconcilable differences, right? Because every couple got problems. It's just a matter of, are you willing to stick in there and solve them, or are you wanting to walk away? Like I said, I have no idea what went on. But Clifton has proven in past behavior that he knows how to leave a marriage, because he left the last wife. From what I remember, the wife didn't leave him. He left the wife. And I can say this about Clifton, that he's always come off a bit of, he wanted it his way, right? Even the whole Dakia thing, there was an air of, yeah, Joy's the one I chose, but I was still kind of doing this little shady stuff with Dakia. Even in the marriage of Joy, Joy's the one I chose, but I'm still not really fully embracing my marriage to Joy through this whole Carmen relationship. I remember on Love and Marriage DC, I think he wasn't point blank asked about if it became Carmen or if it became Joy, but in a lot of ways he was said, hey, now that Carmen and Joy have had this rift, this fight, this public fight, they're no longer friends. What are you going to do, Clifton? Are you going to choose Joy, your wife, or are you going to choose Carmen? And he didn't say Joy. What he said was, I think they're going to be able to work it out. That's not the answer. That's not the answer. You can say, well, you hope they could work it out, but in the end, this is my wife. I'm going to have to go with her. He didn't say that. He didn't emphatically choose Joy. And I know that wasn't lost on Joy, because Joy is a strong personality. And I'm wondering if throughout their marriage, if any of that sort of not feeling protected by Clifton played an impact on Joy. Remember, Joy was raised by her father, so she's used to a strong male presence. She's probably used to being protected by a male in a lot of ways. I remember that about Joy, which is one of the reasons why she got along with men so well, because she was used to sort of that male energy of her dad, right? Maybe some people felt she had too much male energy, but she had it. And if that's the case, if she had a really strong relationship with her father, she's probably used to the protection of a man. And if any way in point Clifton became not giving her that sort of security and that sort of, you got my back, I can see how that could be a problem for Joy. Like I said, I don't know what Clifton did financially. I know what Joy did. And, you know, if Joy is off around in Mexico or other places, living the sort of gig life where she's performing, what does that do? Any type of long distance or distance in a marriage can put a strain on the marriage. And if you're not able to work it out, right? The financial components, who's making the money. Clifton came in with a lot of baggage. He had 3 kids, child support he had to pay. You know what I mean? So you got 3 kids plus you got a new wife. I'm not trying to count his money. I'm just saying that there were some areas in which when they got together, that if they did not work on strengthening those areas and improving those areas, I could see how the relationship could deteriorate and disintegrate over time. Now, they became good friends with Irena and Jamie. Jamie and Irena have been married for a long time, at least over 25 years. And they've had their ups and downs and, lows and highs. So if anybody could have coached them on how to make it through lows to get to the highs, it would have had to been them. But the fact that Irena and Jamie chose to support Joy kind of a little bit doesn't mean they don't like Clifton, but it kind of does say that we sticking with her, right? We saw Joy on Love and Marriage DC, and it wasn't a good season for her. It was a lot of chaos, a lot of arguing with the other lady on there. I forget her name. And we know how these reality TV shows go. It's there to create drama and fight. And Joy got in a lot of them with her. Joy got in a lot of fights with the castmates. Winter was one of them. And I forget the other lady's name that's married to the DJ. But I remember watching part of that season saying Joy is easily triggered. When before I felt like Joy was such a steadfast person that it wasn't people couldn't really get to her too much. But on Love and Marriage DC, they got to her, and she lost it a lot of times. I imagine that around that time they might have been going, maybe they were going through stuff then. Clifton even had health problems back then. Remember, he had back surgery and all this other kind of stuff. So there could have been lots of time where Clifton wasn't even really making that much money. And Joy might have had to carry the financial load. I don't know. But it's sad. It's sad that whatever problems they were having, they weren't able to work it out. But like I said, I'm not too surprised that Clifton is the one that filed for the divorce. But that don't mean Joy was the cause of it. I know a lot of you want to say that because a lot of people didn't like Joy. But Joy's guiltiness was of supporting her man to the point where she overlooked like Dakia's feelings, right? That's more of what I feel like Joyce was. She always stood 10 toes down for Clifton. And sometimes that meant stepping on the neck of people like Dakia. She didn't have to do that, but she did. And that kind of tainted her in a lot of people's eyes. Even I didn't like the way that she did that, right? And I think about on Carmen, same kind of thing. I felt like Joy was always sort of trying to claim Clifton in situations where Clifton himself could have done a lot better job at creating a safe space for Joy. Almost as if Joy had to, help Clifton, save Clifton, And I wonder if there was just a little bit too much of that. So just because Clifton filed, maybe that also meant Joy was willing to try to work it out. But it was Clifton who felt, no, I don't want to do no more work to keep this relationship together because I'm not getting what I want. And history has shown us that that is something that Clifton has done in the past. Like I said, when you can walk away from a 2-year-old and a special needs child, and you can move out the entire country to travel and follow around a songstress, that's not a good sign. It ain't a good sign. But anyway, that's all I got, y'all. That's all I got. Just came to talk to it, but I'll talk to you later. Okay, bye.